Hello and welcome back. Yes, so there's a little noise. I've got to have the windows open at the moment because the room is boiling, which is why I'm a charming shade of red. And the juniors are out. They're quite spooked today, I think. They're making quite a lot of noise. But hopefully, I'll just talk louder. Anyway, chapter 5, the stinking stables. Cleaning out stables is hardly equal to the other tasks I've been set, Heracles muttered indignantly as he approached King Augeas' palace grounds. Nonetheless, he had agreed to carry out all King Eurystheus' orders, so he couldn't refuse. He wrinkled his nose at a terrible stench in the air. The closer he got to the palace, the more unbearable the smell became. He came to a herd of cattle huddled miserably near a river at the top of the sloping field. At the bottom of the hill, there was another river and a large stable building. Great heaps of dung spilled out of the doors at either end of the stables, which were barely visible through the cloud of dark flies that surrounded them. There's no way the owner of this mess deserves to have it cleaned up for nothing, Heracles thought. He went into the palace and asked to see the king. A servant showed him to a pristine throne room. King Augeas was sitting with his young nephew. I was just passing, Heracles announced, and I couldn't help noticing the state of your stables. I can clean them out for you for some kind of payment if you like, say a quarter of your herd. They are rather dirty, admitted King Augeas. All right, it's a deal. The king and his nephew followed the stranger outside to watch. Heracles wrapped a scarf around his nose and mouth and then marched to the stables using a long branch broken from a nearby tree. He prodded open the doors at both ends of the stables without having to wade through the muck. Then he trudged away and brought back a shovel. First, Heracles dug a trench from the doors at the lower end of the stables down to the river below. Then he dug a second trench from the doors at the other end of the stables up to meet the river at the top of the hill. As he broke the river's bank with his shovels, the water gushed down into the trench. It flowed, foaming, curling down the channel that Heracles had dug, right through the stables, washing away all the dung into the river below. Heracles stood back and watched with a smile of satisfaction. When every last trace of filth had gone, he filled up the upper trench again and allowed the river to resume its normal course. Augeas' nephew gasped in awe. You didn't even get your hands dirty, exclaimed the king. There was no need, said Heracles. Should I take my share of the cattle with me now? No, said the king. You're not taking any of my cattle. You agreed to give... Oh, nephew. You agreed to give him a quarter of the herd, his nephew protested. I've already got an army ready. I've got an army ready that will agree that I didn't, warned the king. Heracles shook his head. That's a disgraceful way to behave, he said. But I didn't come here for a fight. He walked away, but the king's nephew ran after him. Could I give you a lift home? He said. It's the least I can offer. Heracles agreed. So they went together back to King Eurystheus' palace. The king. Did you clean King Augeas' stables? The king asked Heracles when they arrived. I did, Heracles replied. And I can vouch for that, added the nephew. I saw it with my own eyes. But my awful uncle refused to pay up. Perhaps you could persuade him? The king narrowed his eyes. You want to ask for payment, Heracles, he said sternly. That's it. You forfeited this task. It doesn't count. Heracles clenched his fist in frustration, but bowed his head and said nothing. There you go. I've always liked that one because I love the idea of cleaning a really filthy stable with a river. I think that's brilliant. Also, I've always liked the Greek myths where somebody does something very clever instead of just fighting, which is why my favourite Greek myth of all, my favourite Greek myth character has got to be Odysseus. We'll do more of Odysseus later. We will, I promise, one way or another. He'll be there. Yeah, and also the other thing to remember is this wasn't unheard of. I think the ancient Neo-Assyrians, guys from Mesopotamia, I think it was those like Sargon and that, who absolutely loved to divert rivers when they were attacking cities. So if there was a river nearby to a city, and often the two would be quite close, they would dig big trenches, and then just like Heracles, they'd burst the bank, and the river would come down and swamp the city, and they'd run in and loot the place, sack the city. So it wasn't completely unheard of. Anyway, what I've realised I haven't actually done is given you some ideas for things you could do. As ever, You could do a simple retelling of the story. If you want to just rewrite a bit of the story, do your own sort of little version of it, you can. You could do that sort of third person. Heracles did that, Heracles did this. Or if you wanted to, you could do first person. You could write it like you were Heracles. I did this, the king asked me that. I then did it, that kind of stuff. Obviously, always pictures. We've had some lovely pictures I've seen on Class Dojo of some of the myths. Pictures always works well. Newspaper reports, if you wanted to do your own little sort of Greek newspaper. Newspaper reports about the different labours, the different tasks of Heracles might work quite well. Trying to think outside the box. You could make your own Heracles lion skin and wear it around the house and surprise people. You could write a song. We haven't done that, have we? Who wants to write a song about Heracles? And we'll put up on the website of Class Dojo. That'd be lovely. Poetry. You can always write a poem. These things might work quite well. Lots of things rhyme with lion. You could. What else could you do? Always make models. Any junk modelling. You could sort of make any of the monsters from any of the stories. Particularly, you could do something like the Hydra here. You could. There's a couple other sort of monstery things coming up later. You could do. What else? I don't know. Hopefully it's inspired you and my ramblings have given you something to do. But obviously don't feel you need to do anything. Enjoy the stories. Yeah, cool. Take care. Hope everyone is keeping safe and well, and we shall see you when we see you.